So, fellow Toastmasters, we are now going to head into a panel discussion. And our panelists tonight will be Tamara Matangi herself. She will be joined by Elizabeth Viljoen and Talia Powell. Tracy is going to be the moderator for the panel discussion. So Tracy is the current Division P Director. Last year she was the Area Director for P1. Her continuous service as a district leader is a testament to her desire to upskill in leadership skills. And so tonight she's going to very confidently moderate our panel discussion. And we invite all of you to participate. I'm sure you have questions and points of view and things that you would like to discuss or share with everyone. So please join into our panel discussion, and I invite our panelists now to join. Over to you, Tracy.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'd like you to think of questions that you might like to ask, and if you could put your little yellow hands up if you have a question, and then we will go to you for your questions for the panelists. So I have a question to start with for the panelists. What sort of a percentage of an analysis would you think about putting into an evaluation? Sort of what percentage of your evaluation would you make as an analysis of the speech?
Do you mean breaking up the three elements as a percentage of the evaluation? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So,
yes,
for example,
yes.
It might be 5% for the commendations, or 10% commendations, 5% recommendations, so what? Something like that.
Yes. Yes.
Who would like to share?
Thank you, Tracy. That's a very interesting question. Analysis of the speech, or is it the evaluation? Often we do go down the path of wanting to recall or retell the speech content, and that's very tempting, and I see it in many different clubs around the country. For myself, I find that I lean more towards providing an analysis of the speaker themselves and the space that they're actually delivering the speech in. Try very much to hold myself back in, but I think that's just the way that I think. But overall, everyone, I think, is able to gain from the different ways that each individual looks at a speech and feeds back on that speech.
Elizabeth would like to share something?
Yes, that was something else that I wanted to share, but I'll do that at the end, Marlene. But I agree with Tamara Matanga. The only thing I would say is I would ask the speaker beforehand whether they also want an analysis of the speech, of the content of the speech, or whether they want to focus on their presentation. In Toastmasters, we mostly focus on the presentation rather than the content of the speech. But some speakers really want us also to focus on the content. So it's important to get their point of view before you do the evaluation.
And I guess on that point too, in reality, unless you're really organized and you are reminded to, first of all, send the evaluation form to your evaluator and then tee up a time to discuss. Sometimes there isn't time for all of that. We're all rushing from A to B. So I still think it's valid that when you get to the meetings to have a quick word with the speaker to find out what else does the speaker want you to look out for in your evaluation, because the overall benefit is going to be focused on the speaker, him or herself. The whole point of it in evaluation is to help that person improve their skills. And so it is important that a contact or a connection is made, like what Elizabeth showed us earlier in her presentation. That would be something that I would strongly advocate.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Marlene. Would Talia have anything she would like to add for this, or we can move to the next question? Okay. Okay, we can move to the next question that I have. How have evaluations helped you personally in your own life, personal life or professional life? So how have evaluations helped you personally?
Is that a question for the whole audience, or are you specifically pointing it to one of your panelists?
To Maratanga or Elizabeth or Talia?
Thank you, Tracy. Ooh, how have evaluations helped me? In Toastmasters, I've certainly grown from the feedback that other club members have given me. In my real life, I have performance reviews, and receiving evaluations in Toastmasters kind of calmed down those nerves. And I also no longer kind of take it personally anymore. And that has certainly helped. The act of speaking in the third person has enabled me to hear the evaluation of my own workplace, of my own real life situations, with a bit more clarity and openness to be able to take it on board.
Okay, thank you, Tamara Tanga. What about Elizabeth? Elizabeth?
Tracy, yes, I think the evaluation part, when I figured it out, that was the thing that gave me the most confidence. I had real stage fright, but also I'm a perfectionist, so I always think people think the worst possible thing about me. And when I started listening to the evaluations, and especially when I got better, and people started to struggle to find something to evaluate, but they still had to give a recommendation, that calms my nerves completely, because suddenly I realize it's as difficult for them as it is for me. And it's not personal. It's part of this prescription. It's part of what we have to do in Toastmasters. So now I look forward to the recommendation, even at work, even at home, because I know that I don't have to take it personally, and I am not judged. I am just challenged to try and do something better, but that does not mean that everything that I do is wrong. It's just that one thing that I can focus.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Would Talia have anything to add to the question?
Sorry, Tracy, could you repeat that for me a second? Thank you.
Okay. How have evaluations helped you in your personal or professional life?
Valuations are very helpful to me in both my personal and professional life. I think in my professional life, I am a barrister, I'm a lawyer, and I work at a chambers of barristers with some really accomplished senior barristers. The majority of who are from a different generation to I and aren't always the best at managing people or delivering feedback. They are incredible at what they do technically, and I think for me, having learned what a good evaluation is and learning not only to how to give one, but also how to receive one, and how to know that people often don't intend to give a evaluation that hurts you in one way or another, but sometimes can. I think when I deliver feedback to people professionally at work, I really try and make sure that I give a opportunity to learn from the way that I've done it. So I, in response to feedback that I receive, say, hey, thank you so much for letting me know that that's something that I could improve. Is there any way that you could talk to me about some of the things that you really did enjoy so that I know what that comparison is. And I know that might seem a little bit sneaky, but people are so happy to help and provide that feedback. It's almost as though they just need reminding that, you know, you can talk about the good stuff as well as just the things you want me to change. So I think that's my kind of professional world. Personally, I think it's made me a better communicator in my relationships, you know, not only with my partner, but with my friends, my parents, because you can understand how somebody might be feeling when you're trying to suggest change to them, which is often the point of an evaluation. You're trying to suggest some form of change. And especially with my partner, whether it's something little like, oh, perhaps we could put up shelving in the garage, you know, if it's just, hey, put up some shelving, you know, he's not going to want to do it. But if I say something like, wow, you know, the last time you put up that shelf in the bathroom, it looked so great. And you definitely have a skill set there that I can't do. Any chance you could help me put up some more shelving in the garage? 9 times out of 10, he's going to help me do it. And it's, you know, and why not? People often love hearing words of affirmation. So actually framing something with that positive start, a little request or a recommendation in the middle, and gratitude or a thanks at the end works well in both, you know, personal life as well as Toastmasters context.
Okay, thank you, Talia. I think it's a very interesting answer you have just given us. A really great answer. Have any of our audience members got questions that they would like to ask? Maybe, has anybody else got any questions?
I have a question.
So yes, thank you,
Well,
Marlene.
has anyone else put up their hand? I can't see anyone else. I just have something to actually share, and I know that Talia alluded to this earlier, is to keep an eye on the project that the speaker is going to be speaking from, because sometimes that's another skill that we learn in Toastmasters, is to focus on something and to be able to speak to it. So the objectives of the speech, maybe what project are they speaking from, and I have an example. As of last night, I attended one of my meetings and I was evaluating one of our speakers' speeches. She was doing an icebreaker for one of the parts. And this was a seasoned Toastmaster who had been a Toastmaster for 40 plus years. And so when I did the evaluation, one of the things I noticed, and I made a comment on it, was because this is such a personal story, and you know where you've been and where you've and the path you're on, is to lose notes, because she was reading from notes. So in the general evaluation, it was suggested that in my evaluation, I should have probably been a little bit more lean in my suggestion of not using notes, given the fact that 40 plus years as a Toastmaster, giving their icebreaker, recounting what they've done, where they've come from, their journey to now. And of course, an icebreaker is only 4 to 6 minutes. Well, this person went well beyond that, and that the general evaluator suggested that it would be okay to use some notes to document the various things that this person had done in her life, and I shouldn't be so stringent about telling them to lose notes. So, you know, it's just those little subtle things that we often overlook. And when I was given that comment last night, I thought, yeah, the penny dropped. There was a light bulb, and I thought I should have thought of that. So, you know, in evaluation, there are, you sort of look at the purpose of the speech from the manual, or just looking at the person giving the speech, what the speech is, and what's around that person. So many things to think of. But my point is to maybe focus on what the element, what the purpose is of the speech, and maybe evaluate to that. Builds your skills as well. good listening and paying attention. Does anyone, does that resonate with anyone in the audience perhaps? And would you like to share what you've experienced?
Thank you for that, Marlene. I'd just like to share one thing for my personal experience. I always like to read people's projects like the day before I evaluate them. So I read the whole project, and I went along to my meeting on one occasion, and the speaker had forgotten to bring their evaluation with them. So because I read the whole speech the day before, I knew what the objectives were and everything. So that kind of helped us through that little bit of her like not knowing, you know, of all the objectives were and things like that. So I always do try and read the objectives the day before. I read the whole project. So I'm thoroughly know what I'm going to be evaluating. Right. Are there any other questions from anyone in the audience at all? Okay. Okay, so I think we can probably end our questions and answers section here.